So in this video, I wanted to take you through 4 hard truths about dating the hot and cold love style partner. So if you're not familiar with attachment styles, basically one of 4 major attachment styles is called the fearful avoidant. It's also commonly known as the disorganized attachment style. And this is the partner in relationships who tends to be hot and cold. They tend to be very black and white in their thinking, very all or nothing. And they can be really, connected and deeply present and there and available, and sort of at the flip of a switch go into their more avoidant side and become withdrawn or closed off or really adverse to vulnerability. And so this is the hot and cold partner or fearful avoidant attachment style. Now, I want to go through the 4 main components of things that are really important to note if you are dating a fearful avoidant, so you can see some of the impact and also decide what you want to do about this. So one of the first things you want to know before I even get into the 4 things are that there are really nice things about fearful avoidance that tend to draw people in. Fearful avoidants tend to be very deeply caring, very present, very available, quite empathetic, quite charming, especially upon those first few months of dating before a lot of their attachment trauma and wounds have arisen. But fearful avoidants are characterized as the attachment style that tends to have the biggest history of trauma and complexity in their relationships growing up. And unfortunately, until we work through some of these different dynamics as individuals, some of what we've been through in our past experiences just can inevitably build into or bleed into some of our current relationships and circumstances. So the fearful avoidant, number one, sometimes when dating them, they aren't ready to change. And if a fearful avoidant is not ready to change, it's sort of like this idea that when we go through trauma or pain, trauma is not our fault, but it is our responsibility to be able to do the work around. And so when we go through different experiences where maybe we lose the ability to really trust. Maybe we get afraid of commitment because we get afraid of too much closeness. Maybe we lose our ability to communicate our needs because they weren't met growing up. When we go through these different things, obviously we didn't ask for those things, right? Those things are not our fault, but really only we can put in the effort to change them. And so I've seen a lot of people with fearful avoidance because fearful avoidance show so well. They show up so well in the dating stage of relationships and that early stage of connection. And people will often really be drawn in by them, especially with how present they are and how caring they are. But if some of these unhealthy patterns follow, once that attachment forms, sometimes fearful avoidance can be really all or nothing. They can flip-flop back and forth. There can be a lot of chaos and fighting and arguing in a relationship with a fearful avoidant. And that can lead to a lot of disruption as a whole. And if somebody in a relationship with a fearful avoidant isn't assessing clearly to see, look, is this person doing the work? Are they putting in the work to really change and heal? Then what we're going to get is this repeated pattern of that volatility across time if somebody isn't able to work through those things, because there usually is a whole bunch of trauma that unfortunately easily does get carried into present and future relationships if we're not working through it. Number 2, if you're the partner or loved one of a fearful avoidant, unfortunately as well, if you get stuck in this really strong push-pull pattern with a fearful avoidant, what ends up happening is it can actually affect your subconscious mind, because we are all programmed through repetition plus emotion. In other words, whatever experiences we are repeatedly exposed to that elicit an emotional response is very likely to imprint our subconscious mind, meaning that a lot of that hot and cold behavior that can show up when dating a fearful avoidant can be something that over time causes you to struggle to trust or to feel like you have to walk on eggshells, or causes maybe limiting beliefs for you about relationships and how they function. So it's important to recognize that fearful avoidants are amazing people, and they also have a lot of trauma in their history that is just going to spill into relationships. And if they're not doing the work, there will be a bit of an impact on your subconscious mind over time. And if you are the fearful avoidant, just realizing how important it is to do the work in relationships so that you can heal. By the way, before I go into the next 2 points, I actually have a roadmap all about this. It's called the Advanced Fearful Avoidant course. It just talks about how the fearful avoidant or hot and cold love style partner is likely to show up in each of the 6 stages of relationships. So when you're dating, when you're in the honeymoon stage, in the power struggle, once you get into the stability stage, the commitment stage, and the bliss stage. And it actually gives you a roadmap for all the things that are likely to happen, like the pain points, the challenges, and exactly the steps to work through it if you're either the fearful avoidant yourself or the loved one of a fearful avoidant. And really, because the course is giving you this roadmap, it's going to give you everything you need for that first major relationship breakthrough. And it's only about 2 hours long. And for the month of February, starting now, we are doing a 14-day free trial to PDS. So you can actually check out the course for free for 14 days. It's more than enough time to get a first major breakthrough. And if you don't have that major breakthrough of like deeply understanding what your pain points are in relationships and how to work through them, then we guarantee a money back refund. So you can check that out very risk-free. So anyways, point number 3 here is that there tends to be this dynamic of intermittent reinforcement. And when intermittent reinforcement happens with somebody, especially if they're on the receiving end, intermittent reinforcement can almost cause this like addictive preoccupation. So, think of a gambler, for example. What are gamblers so addicted to? There's no physiological addiction happening to like a substance, but what's actually taking place is the intermittent reinforcement of the reward is what causes somebody to just get really addicted to gambling. Now, what happens in romantic relationships, or really any relationship with a fearful avoidant, is there tends to also be intermittent reinforcement because the fearful avoidant themselves usually already went through their own version of intermittent reinforcement growing up. Then that caused them to have this hot and cold relationship inwardly to others because that's what they were taught and that was what was modeled to them. And then that gets passed along to other people that they're in relationships with. So sometimes if you're dating a fearful avoidant, what can happen is you may find this like preoccupation or rumination or like hyper focus on them and the relationship. And sometimes that can be at the expense of other important areas of your life. So always important to pay attention to. And number 4, what you are so drawn to and often what you are seeking from a relationship with a fearful avoidant is often what you're missing in the relationship to yourself. So if you pay close attention, if you're feeling really seen by the fearful avoidant, like if you're really drawn into somebody, for example, right? And it's like, let's say you're on a 5th date with an FA and you're really like, wow, I'm so interested in this person. Ask yourself, like, what needs are they meeting for me? What specific traits am I so drawn to? And what you'll see is, as a general rule, those things that you're so drawn to, if it's like they're really present, they make you feel seen, they make you feel understood, those tend to be things that you're often missing in the relationship to yourself or just in having in other areas of life. And so, these deep things can be those things that cause you to keep going back, even if there's unhealthy patterns from time to time. And if you're not realizing that, oh, these are needs I'm not meeting in myself, then you'll stay hooked, right? But if you're realizing, hey, these are things that are unmet in the relationship to myself, I can meet them in myself or in other areas of my life with other people, and you put some strategies and action steps into place to do so, then what will happen is you'll get rid of some of that like hyper focus. And this can also allow you to set healthy boundaries, which ultimately can empower you and the fearful avoidant. Like if you say, hey, the intermittency isn't okay, I have a boundary around it, you share what that boundary is, that can also empower the fearful avoidant to do some self-reflection and recognize some of how their actions can affect others, because it really is in innocence. It's at its core that they've been taught sort of traumatic ways for how to operate in relationships. And these are the sort of subconscious rules they're playing by in their connection and relationships to others. So by them also having more self-awareness and having boundaries set, it can empower them to be able to take that next stage to grow. So I have some really exciting news, and it's that integrated attachment theory training is back. In other words, you can be trained to become a relationship coach certified in integrated attachment theory in literally 60 days. So who's this for? Well, of course, this is for any individual who wants to make an impact and really be of service to others while also obtaining freedom and flexibility and abundance in their lives. And this is also for anybody who's already a counselor, a therapist, a coach, and just really wants to expand their toolkit. We've had so many people enter into the integrated attachment theory program because they're just looking to obtain a certain degree of mastery in terms of understanding their own attachment patterns and also the attachment patterns of maybe their children or partner or other loved ones in their lives, so they can really support those people and understand them more deeply. Now, please keep in mind that the last 2 times we ran this program, we filled up very fast. In fact, we oversold the programs and sold out completely. So if you're interested, click the link below to learn more and dive in with me. And I'd love to see you on the other side before seats run out. So anyways, these are 4 hard truths, really important things to pay attention to. And if you are the fearful avoidant watching this and just want to do a deep dive into understanding yourself better, very valuable to sort of do a deep dive, realize some of these patterns that might be here and why, and take those next steps to really breaking through. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you're enjoying this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. I put out daily videos here on attachment styles, the subconscious mind, love, relationships, all of those different things. And if you hit the notification bell, you won't miss any. And I look forward to seeing you in future videos.